Nice to meet you. It's William, right? Just call me Mike. Have any trouble finding us?
No, thanks. But the traffic was bad.
Atrocious, isn't it? You're right on time, though. That's good. Have a seat. Let's start off with just a general question about your background. Can you tell me a little about yourself?
All right. Since graduating with honors in economics from the University of Hong Kong, that was in 1996, I've been working for 10 years at First United Trust at the Admiralty branch. First as a loan officer, and for the past 3 years as an assistant branch manager.
When Mike invites William to introduce himself, notice that William keeps his response focused on his career path. He mentions his education, as well as his work history, which includes 2 roles at a branch or a particular office of a bank. What you'll notice is that William gives just the right amount of information. If your response to any question is too short, you won't make a good impression. Imagine if William just said, "Okay, I'm William, and I work at First United Trust." But it's also not good to give an answer that's too long. In this case, the right amount is just a few sentences. What are some other things we can say as part of an introduction focused on your career path? Let's try some more examples.
I graduated with a degree in finance and have since specialized in risk management.
After completing my MBA, I worked as an analyst in corporate finance for 5 years.
I spent a decade in marketing before transitioning to a role in product management.
I began as an intern in the industry and worked my way up to team lead.
Now that William has introduced his current work, it's a chance for Mike to ask a follow-up question.
Okay. And what are your main responsibilities at First United?
I've been mainly responsible for handling revolving credit for over 100 local and expat customers, and overseeing a portfolio of $400 million in new short and long-term fixed asset loans for individuals and for small businesses.
Once again, you can hear William give enough information for Mike to understand, but not so much that he gets distracted. And with his answer, William uses some key phrases to explain his level of responsibility. He talks about what he's responsible for and mentions that he oversees a big portfolio or collection of investments. You'll also notice that he gives some idea of the scope or scale of his responsibility. This includes mentioning how many customers he handles and how big the investment portfolio is. This will help Mike understand his capabilities. You can assume that you'll be asked to summarize your current job responsibilities, so let's practice more ways of doing this. Notice the strong focus on verbs like coordinate, manage, and oversee.
I'm responsible for managing key client accounts and ensuring service quality.
My role involves coordinating project timelines and communicating updates to all stakeholders.
I oversee a team of 6, providing guidance and support on daily operations.
My primary focus is on budget management and financial forecasting.
Now let's get back to the interview, as Mike asks about a specific skill or responsibility.
That's great. Maybe you could also tell me something about the way you manage people. What's your management style?
Let's see. I'd say my management style is participatory and situational. By that I mean that my style adapts to what each situation requires, but I always place great emphasis on participation from my team.
William has used the words participatory and situational to describe his management style. It's easy to throw buzzwords around, but good job candidates will show that they have a clear understanding of the words they use. As you can hear, William explains exactly what he means with these words. Situational means he adapts to different situations, and participatory means he considers team participation important, or he places emphasis on participation. Let's run through some more ways of clarifying the words you use so that an interviewer understands exactly what you mean.
When I say innovative, I'm referring to finding creative solutions to problems.
I define team-oriented as always being willing to collaborate with colleagues.
By efficient, I mean delivering quality work within the set deadlines.
When I say goal-driven, I'm talking about my commitment to achieving results.
After explaining his approach to management, William talks about his working style.
As for my personal characteristics, I thrive on challenge. I work well under pressure, and I would describe myself as detail-oriented and proactive.
Interesting. Those are always good qualities to bring to the job. You said that your management style was participatory and situational. Could you give an example of that?
Let's see. Let me think about that.
William is trying to create a clear picture of how he works. He emphasizes that he's good in high-pressure, challenging situations, and he's good with details. But Mike wants to come back to William's idea about participatory and situational management. He wants more than just an explanation. He asks for an actual example of his approach to management. Questions about specific examples, when you did something, or demonstrated some quality or approach, are common. It's a part of what we call behavioral questions, where you are asked about situations and how you reacted. It's not always easy to think quickly about situations in your past. For this reason, it's good to know some expressions for buying yourself some time. William doesn't rush to give an example. Instead, he takes his time and says, "Let's see, and let me think about that," to give himself some time to think of a good answer. Let's try some more ways of buying yourself some time to think of a response.
That's a great question. Give me a second to gather my thoughts.
Let's see. I'll need a moment to recall a good example.
Let me think about the best way to explain that.
Just a second. I want to make sure I answer accurately.
So, what example does William come up with for his situational and participatory management style? Let's listen as he talks about a project to install a new CRM, or customer relationship management system.
Okay. We were installing a major client CRM system, which was behind schedule. I called a meeting with all 7 team members, described the project status, and asked for recommendations for getting the project back on schedule. The team decided on the best course of action, and the result was that we successfully delivered the project on time. This is a good example of my participatory leadership style. I try to use influence rather than authority to lead.
William summarizes the situation concisely and clearly. He uses what we call the STAR approach to behavioral questions. That means he talks about the situation, the task that was needed, his action, and the result. Most importantly, William brings his response back to the exact question about participatory leadership style. It can be easy once you start telling a story about your work experience to forget what the question was. What are some other ways of connecting a long answer back to the question? Let's run through a few more examples.
So, in short, that's how I approached the challenge with my team.
To bring it all together, That's how my role impacted the project.
To answer your question, that's how I lead in a high-pressure situation.
And in the end, that's how I ensured the team's success.
These ways of connecting a long answer back to the question are very useful. A good interviewer will frame their questions to collect the information they need to make a decision. And if you stray from their questions too far, they might not invite you back for a second interview. Now let's practice some of the language we learned in today's lesson. Imagine you are interviewing for a management position at a financial services company. You'll hear a cue from the employee. Then I'll tell you how to respond. We'll guide you through each step in the practice and provide an example answer for each response. Ready? Let's give it a go.
Could you share a bit about your background?
Start by saying you started as a financial analyst and then became a team lead.
Answer. So I started as a financial analyst and then became a team lead.
I see. And what kind of tasks do you handle in your current role?
Now say that you manage client portfolios and advise them on investment strategies.
Answer. I manage client portfolios and advise them on investment strategies.
You mentioned that your management style is collaborative. Could you expand on that?
Now clarify that you mean you always encourage your team to share ideas.
Answer. By collaborative, I mean I always encourage my team to share their ideas.
On another note, can you give an example of leading a project under pressure?
Now buy yourself some time by asking for a moment to think of a good example.
Answer. Let's see. Just give me a moment to think of a good example.
That's all for this lesson on job interviews. We've looked at how to introduce yourself and talk about your current job and responsibilities. We've also learned how to clarify the words you use. Buy yourself some time and tie a long answer back to the question. For more practice, premium members can access the online quizzes and PDF transcripts for this and other lessons on the BEP website. Not a member yet? Then head over to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up for a free trial to preview some of the extra resources available to members. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.
You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move.
Hello, and welcome back to Business English Pod for today's lesson on the skills you need to succeed in first-round job interviews. Before we get started, a quick reminder that a PDF transcript for this lesson, along with hundreds of others, is available on the BEP website. Premium members can also access extra resources for every lesson. To take a free trial, just head over to www.businessenglishpod.com. A job interview is a chance to highlight your achievements and talk about the amazing things you've done in your career. By talking about what you've achieved, you can show how your experience fits the position. And by showing how your strengths have helped you, you can convince the interviewer that you're the right person to hire. If only it were that easy, though. Interviewers aren't going to ask you only about the good stuff. They're going to ask you about difficult things as well. That means they might ask you about problems in your current or past jobs. And they might also ask you that dreaded question, what are your weaknesses? But don't worry. You know these questions are coming, so you can get ready. Think of some difficult situations you've been in. Focus on the ones where you were able to solve a problem or deal with difficult people. And think about your weaknesses honestly and how you've tried to improve on these things. In that way, you'll be able to face the tough questions confidently. In this lesson, we'll rejoin William as he interviews for a position at a bank in Hong Kong. William is being interviewed by Mike, an HR manager at the bank. You will hear how William deals with difficult questions and how he isn't afraid to discuss problems and how he dealt with them. As you listen to the dialogue, try to answer the following questions. 1. William talks about a problem with short-term loans. What does he say was the cause of this problem? 2. What does William say is one of his strengths? 3. What does William say is one of his weaknesses?
Okay, William. Tell me about your proudest achievement.
When I took over as assistant manager in 2004, we had a non-performing loan rate of 5% on short-term loans and revolving credit due to problems with credit controls.
That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, obviously there were some problems there. So, to find out where the weaknesses were, I worked with my team and the credit department to determine whether the issue was structural or down to a lack of controls.
And you determined it was lack of controls?
Yes, mainly.
How'd you go about fixing it?
Well, I was able to leverage my local cultural knowledge to find several previously unidentified risk factors that correlated strongly with the non-performers. After analysis, I reduced exposure to high-risk segments, especially real estate.
Sounds like you really focused in on the problem. What were the results?
Let's see. In 2005, my team and I dealt with a total of $200 million in credit and loans. But I am proud to say that the non-performing rate was only 0.3%. This has added up to an estimated savings to the bank of $20 million over the next 3 years. Did I give you the level of detail you were looking for, or would you like to hear another example?
No, that's fine, thank you. Let's move on to another question. So, what would you say are your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
One of my strengths is my ability to be flexible in my perspective, my flexibility in analyzing new ideas and concepts. Over the past 7 years, I've seen First United go through several restructurings. I've had to adjust my style to the new environments, but I've always succeeded in adapting.
Flexibility is always appreciated. And what about your weaknesses?
I think I mentioned before that I enjoy challenges and work well under pressure. I really enjoy my work. The downside to this is that sometimes I put in too much time. But by being aware of my tendency to overwork, I've learned to pace myself more and work less overtime.
That's a hard thing to do in this business. Now, can I ask you why you want to leave your current position?
Well, I've set some goals for myself and for my career, and unfortunately, there's no room for me to move forward at First United. I have begun to explore the options available before I spend too much time in a job where I can't advance.
Now let's go through the dialogue again and hear how William answers Mike's questions. To begin, we can hear William discuss a problem with non-performing loans, or situations where people who borrowed money couldn't pay it back.
Okay, William. Tell me about your proudest achievement.
When I took over as assistant manager in 2004, we had a non-performing loan rate of 5% on short-term loans and revolving credit due to problems with credit controls.
That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, obviously there were some problems there. So, to find out where the weaknesses were, I worked with my team and the credit department to determine whether the issue was structural or down to a lack of controls.
Mike's question is about William's proudest achievement, or something that he feels was a big accomplishment. You can notice that William's answer relates to a specific problem with loans that couldn't be paid back. Talking about specific situations instead of general ideas really helps the interviewer understand how you work. William is obviously going to talk about how he solved this problem, but first he talks about how he figured out or determined what caused the problem. This shows that he has the ability to think analytically about an issue. He's showing how smart he is and how he worked with his team. Stating the cause of a problem is a good way to show you can deal with problems. So let's practice some more examples.
The delay was caused by a lack of communication between departments.
The problem came from outdated software that couldn't handle new data.
High employee turnover has resulted from a lack of growth opportunities.
The issue arose because of insufficient quality control checks.
Now William can explain what he figured out, and then how he solved the problem.
And you determined it was lack of controls?
Yes, mainly.
How'd you go about fixing it?
Well, I was able to leverage my local cultural knowledge to find several previously unidentified risk factors that correlated strongly with the non-performers. After analysis, I reduced exposure to high-risk segments, especially real estate.
William's explanation of his solution shows his ability to analyze difficult problems. He uses his cultural knowledge, or understanding of other cultures, to determine risk factors. Risk factors are things that increase the chance that something bad will happen. In this way, William was able to reduce the exposure to risk or the possible impact on his company. It's great to show that you can take action and make decisions, but it's even better to show that you can make decisions that are logical and right for the situation. What are some other ways we can show how we analyze the problem to come up with the right solution? Let's try some more examples.
After reviewing client feedback, we changed the onboarding process to reduce delays.
Our analysis showed that adjusting price points could improve customer retention.
Based on the data, we streamlined operations to cut down on costs.
We shifted resources to address the areas most affected by the issue.
As we can hear, Mike wants to know how William's solution worked out.
Sounds like you really focused in on the problem. What were the results?
Let's see. In 2005, my team and I dealt with a total of $200 million in credit and loans. But I am proud to say that the non-performing rate was only 0.3%. This has added up to an estimated savings to the bank of $20 million over the next 3 years. Did I give you the level of detail you were looking for, or would you like to hear another example?
Remember, Mike's original question was about William's proudest achievement, and William's approach to the problem of non-performing loans has led to a significant savings of $20 million. He has clearly shown how his skills of analysis and problem-solving created a huge success for his employer. William finishes by checking whether his answer is sufficient, with enough detail. This shows he focused on giving the interviewer the information he needs. And by asking whether he should give another example, he is suggesting that he has other achievements he could talk about. It can be difficult to know exactly how much detail is the right amount of detail in an answer. So let's try some more examples of checking whether an answer is sufficient.
Did I give you enough detail or would you like me to elaborate?
Does that answer your question fully, or should I provide another example?
Would you like more specifics on that project?
Let me know if you'd like me to clarify any part of my answer.
Now let's get back to the interview, as Mike moves on to some pretty standard interview questions.
No, that's fine, thank you. Let's move on to another question. So, what would you say are your greatest strengths and weaknesses?
One of my strengths is my ability to be flexible in my perspective, my flexibility in analyzing new ideas and concepts. Over the past 7 years, I've seen First United go through several restructurings. I've had to adjust my style to the new environments, but I've always succeeded in adapting.
Anyone can state that they have a certain skill or strength, but good interviewees give evidence of their strengths. By that I mean they provide examples of how a particular strength impacted a situation. In William's case, he mentions his flexibility, or his ability to change and adapt. And to prove that he has this ability, he talks about how he adjusted to several restructurings. This is when a company changes its entire structure and organization. That's a very hard change to deal with, but William adapted successfully. Let's run through some more ways of showing evidence of a strength.
My organizational skills helped me reduce project delays by 20%.
I can adapt quickly, as shown when I managed our recent software transition.
My analytical skills helped me identify cost-saving measures.
I'm proactive, as demonstrated by my work improving client satisfaction scores.
Now that he's heard about his strength, Mike wants to hear about a weakness. Let's listen.
Flexibility is always appreciated. And what about your weaknesses?
I think I mentioned before that I enjoy challenges and work well under pressure. I really enjoy my work. The downside to this is that sometimes I put in too much time. But by being aware of my tendency to overwork, I've learned to pace myself more and work less overtime.
Many people fear this question about a weakness. And sometimes people try to state a weakness that is actually a strength, like, I care too much. But Williams shows that it's a good idea to state a weakness that is actually a downside or negative aspect of one of your strengths. Even more importantly, you need to explain how you've dealt with the weakness. And as William points out, he learned to pace himself or manage his time better. In this way, a question about your weakness can be a chance to show that you can learn and grow. Let's run through some more ways of talking about how you've dealt with a weakness.
I tend to be detail-focused, but I've learned to prioritize tasks more effectively.
My desire to get it right the first time has sometimes slowed me down, but I've learned to set clearer deadlines.
I used to take on too much work, but now I delegate more often.
Time management was a challenge, but I now use a scheduling tool to stay on track.
As the interview draws to a close, Mike asks another very common question.
That's a hard thing to do in this business. Now, can I ask you why you want to leave your current position?
Well, I've set some goals for myself and for my career. And unfortunately, there's no room for me to move forward at First United. I have begun to explore the options available before I spend too much